Hello, good morning, everyone. If you are in the UK, good afternoon. If you are in Indonesia, in Thailand, or in Vietnam, there are so many people from Vietnam and also Thailand. Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome again. Welcome back to our Saturday Tech Talk with Joe, Dale, and the iTELL team. Today we are going to have two presenters. One is Pak Toar Sumakul, and also from UKSW, and Silvia. Welcome back. This is our sixth webinar. Hopefully in 2022, we can have a face-to-face conference, no longer a webinar, and it's going to be great if we can have it face-to-face. We're going to have a face-to-face conference later in July. If you're interested, visit our website, and towards the end of this series, you will see the information in detail about that. So we're going to start with fostering students' 21st century and metacognitive skills for this first webinar in 2022, and we are going to have Toar Sumakul as the first speaker. That is going to be followed by Silvia later. Let me introduce you a little bit about Pak Toar. Pak Toar is a very charming person. Toar Sumakul. He is a lecturer from Universitas Kristen Satya Wacana in Salatiga. He is a board member of iTELL, and also he is one of the founders of iTELL. That's very keen to have the association back then with all of the spirit. Yeah. Pak Toar is also a validated trainer for British Council's core skills training program in Indonesia. So that's very important, and he knows a lot of 21st century skills and the metacognitive and so on. So he is going to share that with us today. So relax, stay back, have your coffee, and I'll give the microphone to Pak Toar. Kakak Toar, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pak Jati, for your kind introduction. Hello, everyone. Good morning good afternoon from Indonesia, and I see from the chat that people are coming from everywhere. The people from Malaysia, Vietnam, Ecuador, and of course from the UK. Okay, without further ado, I'd like to share my slide now. Just want to check whether you can see my slide.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so this is the main topic that we are going to discuss today with me. 21st century skills. But in addition to that, I will also talk about this, reflective learning. I believe every teacher here is familiar with this method, where students are asked to reflect on their own learning. Now, as a teacher, I want you to share any activities that you have done in your own classroom that could promote reflective learning for your students. So please go to menti.com and input this code 22922056. So I want you to go to menti.com and put any activities you have done, you've tried out in your own classroom that could promote students' reflective learning. You could write just 1 or 2 words only if possible. Menti.com, I think you could do it in only 1 minute or maybe maximum 2 minutes. Menti.com with the code 22, 92, 20, and 56. Let's see what is happening at Menti. Okay, already 4 people participated. We have games, we have discussion, we have journal. Probably this one is about journal writing, right? Menti.com. Survey. Okay. Thank you. Oops. Okay, you did good. Okay, great. Post test, all right. From about 150 something here participants, so far about 20 people participate. See, oh, there are plenty. Great. Students feedback, argumentative essay, quizzes, scout evaluation, ice breaking, Padlet, evaluation, free writing, ethereal. Oh, this is a new word to me. Ice breaking quizzes. Okay. I see that discussion still dominating the race here. Okay, I think it should be enough. Great, all activities, I think, based on the different context of our own classroom, we could set the activities to promote students' reflective learning so students can reflect on their own learning. What I'm going to share you in this session is actually similar to what you are writing here. I'm going to use several activities to promote students' reflective learning and embed 21st century skills in those activities. Okay, I think it's enough. I'm going to continue. So, in addition to 21st century skills and then graphical learning, I'm also going to talk about this. But it's not about differentiate instruction or standardized tests or a grammar lesson with zero conditional or about you criticizing your boss, but it's actually about memes. Memes are very popular nowadays, particularly internet memes, usually in the form of pictures, and most of them are made for humorous purposes. And we are going to have this in my session, 21st century skills, reflective learning, and then memes. From these three topics, I actually want to share how to train 21st century skills to our students in a reflective learning activity using memes. But to look sophisticated on the promotional poster and to sound more academic, I choose to have this title: Fostering 21st Century Skills in Technology-Enhanced Reflective Learning. All right, this is our menu for today. So I will start with briefly elaborating some of the conception of 21st century skills and teachers' roles. Then I will share what I did in my own classroom. And at the end, I will show you some simple apps that you could share to your students for creating memes. This is the original list of the 21st century skills. From you can see there are three major categories: learning skills, literary skills, and then life skills. But in the classroom, we usually focus only on the learning skills, or the 4 C's: critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. Recently, two more C's have been added: character and citizenship. Actually, British Council have their own version of the 21st century skills. It's called the core skills. You can see here the 6 core skills from British Councils. They are slightly different from the previous versions. Here, communication and collaborations are combined, and there is an addition of digital literacy. And I was lucky to be involved in the delivery of the core skills training in Indonesia since 2016. And as Pak Jati mentioned earlier in the introduction, I am one of the validated trainers for this project. It is a series of workshops for teachers and school leaders on how to embed these core skills or 21st century skills in their own classroom, in their own school context. In general, we could say that despite its complexity, 21st century skills can be taught. And there are various ways, as you have shown in our survey in the beginning. There are various ways on how to embed these skills in our teaching. For example, for critical thinking, this is how it should be taught according to Willingham, 2007. I would like to highlight the subject matter here, that it should be taught in the context of subject matter. It means that in EFL context, for example, we could embed it while teaching tenses in a grammar class, or while teaching how to introduce yourself in a speaking class. So we don't need any special program or special class for teaching 21st. You just embed it in our daily practice in our own teaching. And I believe the same applies to the other skills like collaboration, communication, and creativity, for example. Also, so as a language teacher, our job is not only about teaching the language, writing, reading, speaking, listening, grammar, or vocabulary, for example, but also the 21st century skills. And in relation to technology, technology is also important since it is the core or the main element of the 21st century skills. There are 2 reasons for this. First, it is an argument for the need of the 21st century skills. It means that the rapid development of technology makes 21st century skills become more and more important for our students. The second reason is technology can serve as a tool that can support the acquisition of these skills. And regarding the use of technology, teachers' competence has become an important issue. Not only teachers' technological skills are crucial, but their pedagogical skills need to be upgraded as well. From this pedagogical perspective, I propose these A skills. As we know, teaching is not only about the delivery of the lessons, but also about the preparation stage and the post-teaching stage. And they are even more important, if I may say. I argue that in this era of technology, technology will play more roles during the teaching stage. Therefore, teachers need to focus more on their roles in the pre-teaching stage and post-teaching stage. Pre-teaching stage, where teachers analyze the context of their classroom, the needs of the students, the learning goals, etc. And then later create or design the activities that are suitable for the learners, especially for them to help them achieve the learning goals. At the post-teaching stage, teachers need to be able to evaluate what worked, what didn't work, and what needs to be improved. If you want to know more about these A skills, you can Google my article I wrote in 2019 about this. It is free and it's free to read and free to download. All right. I think it's enough about some theoretical perspective for this. Now I want to share my lesson plan, or to be precise, my reflection play that I use in my own classroom. You can see from the context here that this is for my students and the graduate university students. So if you want to apply it in your own classroom, you may adjust it to fit your own teaching context. And if you look at the aims or the learning goals here, this is not about learning to make memes, although the product is meme, but this is actually for reflective learning, for students to reflect on their own learning and for students to practice their 21st century skills. Now let's see the step-by-step procedure. This is the opening. In the opening, you introduce the activity and ask the students to work in groups. And then we go to the main activities. There are two of them. First one is when the students choose the topic. They brainstorm the lessons learned and choose only one for that topic. After that, they will create the memes. Students look for pictures on the internet, decide what picture to use, discard what words to accompany the picture, create the meme, and develop 1 or 2 sentences to describe the meme. At the end, when students have their meme, and they could post their meme and then give comments to each other's memes. In my class, I use an LMS called Schoology for the students to post their memes, but depending on your classroom context, the age of your students, etc., you may use another LMS such as Google Classroom, for example, or you can use Padlet or social media such as Facebook or Instagram, or you can just use, for example, WhatsApp group. That's all. About the how I embed 21st century skills using the creation of memes in my own classroom. But of course, up to here, some of you may have the question. Where are the 21st century skills? How are those skills being practiced by the students? So now let's go back to see every step of the procedure then. In the opening, first of all, when you introduce the activity to your students, it is very important to explain the learning objectives so the students understand what they will be doing. When the students later work in groups, some of the 21st skills can be practiced, such as communication, collaboration, and even character or students' leadership. Later, when they work in groups and have to choose one topic, in addition to the skills mentioned earlier, this is also the time for them to practice critical thinking. They need to analyze the problem and come up with solutions, which is the topic that they're going to use for the meme. Citizenship may also be informed when the topic chosen is about a global issue. When the discussion is conducted online, digital literacy, particularly on Netiquette, can also be practiced. They will practice how to properly convey their ideas or to accept or reject others' opinion. They are also part of digital literacy. And when they are making the meme, critical thinking and creativity will play great roles. Also, digital literacy could step in. It's not only about using the technology to create the meme, but also when students need to decide which picture to use by also considering the use of copyrighted materials. I will talk more about this later. Finally, when students give comments on their friends' memes, communication skills and etiquette will also take part. So that's all. So that's how I expect my students to practice their 21st skills in this activity, only by creating memes. Now, about creating memes. Regarding the creation process of the memes, one important issue is about the use of copyrighted pictures. You may need to inform this to your students as part of the development of their digital literacy. To be safe, when looking for pictures on Google, for example, under usage rights, here, under usage rights, choose only this, Creative Commons licenses. All pictures under this category is free to use. However, when you have to, you may also use copyrighted materials for educational purposes. It falls under the legal term fair use. I have consulted my colleague in the legal department in our university. He specialized in intellectual property and copyright laws. And he said that you may use copyrighted materials for educational purposes, but they need to be properly acknowledged. It means that you need to cite the source of the picture. He called this illegal action. It's illegal, but legal. However, what I explained here is in the context of Indonesian law. Yeah, different countries may have different laws and regulations. So I think you may need to consult the legal person in your country. Next, I'm going to show you two apps you can share with your students when creating memes. Okay, of course, Canva. We have talked about this, I think, in the early session of this Saturday Tech Talk. So Canva is very popular nowadays. It's available both on mobile or desktop. I don't think I have time to show you how to, and I believe most of you here are already familiar with this. What I'm going to show you is something very simple. It's a mobile app. It's called Fonto. Their taglines here, put text on photo. This is the look on iPhone, Apple phone, and this one is on Android phone. Of course, there are many other apps like this, but I like Fonto because it's free, simple. There are, of course, advertisement, but it's not disturbing and very easy to use. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to create memes on Fonto Android. So when you have installed the app, you can just open it on here, and then when you open the app, you will see this. This is a blank canvas with an advertisement at the top. Don't click on this. Don't tap on this. You go here to the image symbol on the right corner, and it will open your image gallery. And from there, you can choose, from the gallery, you can choose any picture you want from the gallery. When you choose the picture, the image will be uploaded. So I choose this picture, will be uploaded onto the canvas. And once the image is there, tap on the pen or pencil icon to add text here. And when you tap that, a new window will pop up for you to input your text. See, I put here easy, difficult. It's actually a direct translation from Indonesian language, meaning it is easy but difficult. So there are also two options here to align the text and to choose different fonts for your text. And once you done with that, so this is your text. You can still further edit your text here, change the font, change the style, including colors here, change the size, tilt, and move the text anywhere. So this is the image, the meme that I created using this. So I'm going to teach you about 21st century skills. This is the teacher talking to the students. And I said that it is easy. It is easy, but difficult. Easy, but at the same time, difficult. So this is once you are happy with your creation, the meme, you can just tap on the download icon here, and then the meme will be downloaded to your phone gallery. That's all. Very simple and easy to use. And it's almost 20 minutes. And no need for advanced editing skills. And this is the end of my session. Oh, not yet. This I show you 2 memes created by my students. Here, the first one with a picture of an Indonesian lady wearing traditional clothes, local but qualified. The teacher, this is actually a reflection after a lesson about non-native English speaking teacher. The children want to say that although they are local, but they are also qualified to be English speaking teachers. Second one about my students made when they reflect on their learning about teaching grammar to kids, to children. They said that this is students do not need children do not need formula to learn grammar. Okay. We are at the end of my session now. So far, there are 2 aspects worth considering here: technology and pedagogy, right? Technology and pedagogy. However, it's not about technology, but more importantly, it's about the pedagogy. When working with technology, teachers should focus more on the pedagogical aspect of the activity they design for the students. Remember, our job is to make our students learn. There might be other definition or other aspect in the definition of teaching, but for me, the core definition of teaching is students learning. Again, teaching is to make students learn. When learning does not happen, then it is not teaching. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Toar, for the inspiring talk today. There are some questions. The first one.
Okay, I want to see the question.
Yeah, the first one is coming from Kevin, asking that sometimes memes are inside jokes. Is it possible to have a fair peer assessment for that? So it's asking on the peer assessment when you're using memes.
That's also one way to promote students' independent learning, to promote student reflection. So students can reflect not only on their learning, but also their students. So they can learn from each other. That's very good way, peer assessment, to have peer assessment in our practice, teaching practice. So students can also learn from each other. I think it's a very good idea.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Pak. There's also questions or more comment and needs your response on this. That's from Pak Mertianto. How do we evaluate students' work when they are trying to be cynical to current political issues, for example, and maybe a little bit in a quotation bullying some politicians? How will you respond on that, Atoar?
So this is also part of digital literacy, right? I mean, although we are on the internet, but we need to be polite as well. It's part of the netiquette. When you don't want your feelings to be hurt, so don't hurt other people's feelings as well. Although through memes, only through pictures. So we need to also train them to our students. So the internet is not just without filter. It's like when you are talking to people in front of you. So it's like what? So we cannot say that it's a different word. It's our word right now. So we need to train our students, especially about political issues. Be careful. We have the laws and regulation in Indonesia about this. You know, the internet and technology, something ITE law. So we need to, from as early as possible, train our students not to say things that may later harm them, something like that.
Okay, this is a very interesting one. The last questions for the session, and then later we're going to have a longer session for discussion after Silvia's presentation.
Okay.
Just one more part.
Yes.
After getting the data from your group of memes, along with the learner's comment, what features actually should be analyzed?
In my class, in my class when I did this, I left them a week to draw them to post their memes and then comment for that. But it's only on Schoology on Google. I didn't do it on social media or for the media, for example. So I look at for example, the lesson learned. So I keep that. I make some notes, and in the next meeting before the starting of the new lesson, so I kind of use the lesson learned they use in the memes to review the lessons. So this is also become my teaching tool to review my last week's materials. And I also see about netiquette, for example, when they are criticizing their friends and how they use the language to criticize or to complimenting their friends, something like that. So I also see the linguistic elements of their communication.
Okay, very interesting, Pak Toar. Thank you very much for
thank you,
now.
Pak Jati.
Yeah,
and thank you for the question. Very great questions.
Yeah, very nice questions, and we can talk more later towards the end. Yeah, I would like to invite Joe right now. Hi, Joe. Can you introduce Silvia for the next, so that we have a complete about 21st century skills from Indonesian perspective? Toar experience using that inside the class is now your turn. Joe.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Pak Jati, and Happy New Year, everyone. It's lovely to be here. Number 6 out of the 10 webinars in the series. Absolutely fantastic. And as you all know, today's session is looking at 21st century skills and metacognitive skills in particular. So it's my absolute pleasure now to hand over to Silvia Basto, who has really impressed me in various presentations that she's given in the last year or so for the Association for Language Learning and for other organisations. She's speaking at the Teach Lang event coming up next month, along with Esmeralda Salgado, who's going to be presenting at number 7 in the webinar series. So Silvia is a real expert on the use of metacognition in the languages classroom, and so when this topic came up when we were putting this program together, Silvia was the first person on my list to contact, so I was really thrilled that she said yes. And Silvia's going to introduce herself, tell us all about herself and her background, and her roles and what have you in teaching languages. But we're in for a real treat now. It's absolutely fantastic that Silvia's agreed to present for us. So we're going to hear from Silvia in the next 20 minutes, as per normal. If you could write your questions in the Q&A box, I can then put a couple of questions to Silvia, and then we'll open it up afterwards to everybody with some more Q&A. Thank you so much for sharing your presentation, Silvia, and over to you. Brilliant.
Okay, thank you very much, and hello everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you to Pak Toar very much for such an interesting presentation, and thank you very much also to Joe and Pak Jati for organizing such an engaging and informative series of webinars on CPD. I have so far enjoyed every single one of them, and I have learned a lot. And I'm pretty sure that I will learn, and there will be lots of interest in the upcoming webinars as well. So really, really enjoyed it. Just to give you a little bit of information. Oh, let me just see whether I can move my slides now. I seem to be able. There we go. Oh. There we go. Just to tell you a little bit about myself and my background, so you know where I'm coming from. I'm a subject leader at a secondary comprehensive school in the UK, in West Midlands, and I teach students aged 11 to 16 at the moment, but in the past I have also taught 11 to 18. My main subject or language that I teach is German. And that's my second language, which I teach through my third language, English, because my first language is Slovakian. I am also a specialist leader in education for MFL, for the Salop Teaching School. I am research lead with a specific interest in retrieval practice. GCSE examiner. Now, if you are not familiar with this qualification, because it's obviously UK qualification, it stands for General Certificate in Secondary Education, and our students gain this qualification at the end of their secondary education, and I'm examiner for the higher writing paper. I'm also a fellow of Chartered College of Teaching and very proud member of the Association for Language Learning Council. Now, if you're on social media, you can follow me on Twitter. You can see my Twitter handle at the bottom of the slide. I also write an educational blog for our Bastov MFL, which you can see again the website at the bottom, or you can just scan the QR code and it'll take you straight away to the website, where I share regularly ideas, reflections, but most importantly, free resources for language teachers. Now, many of these resources are adaptable to any language you teach or you choose, so they're quite easily adaptable, and the strategies and methodology is quite easy to follow and adapt as you wish. I'm extremely interested in teaching and learning languages in evidence informed and evidence-based practice, and really looking at how we can incorporate the research into our classroom. How can we marry up the research with the classroom so it is effective and it improves outcomes for our students. If you have any questions after the session, which we might not have time to answer, I'm quite happy for you if you email me. You can again see my email address at the bottom of the slide. Okay, so let's get started. Now, metacognition, or thinking about thinking, is a topic that is always widely discussed in the British secondary education. And it has been really in a spotlight probably for the past 50 years. And there is a vast array of research and analysis that's supporting its effectiveness. In fact, the Education Endowment Foundation Toolkit has ranked metacognition and self-regulation as the second highest impact strategy, just after feedback. So we're really aiming to train our students to become truly independent learners. We're constantly pushing for improvement, and we want our students to be intentional in what they do. So we're really talking about a range of long-term and sustained behaviors that our students do themselves. So it's not something we do to our students, but our students doing actually themselves. And when we talk about metacognitive strategies and regulation, we really have to consider a lot of aspects, you know, things such as cognitive load theory, formative assessment, retrieval practice, modeling, and feedback. Now, Toar I in his paper 2013 talks about really 4 stages that we need to consider, or students need to consider when they're approaching a task, when they want to tackle a task. And he talks about comprehension, so really understanding what it is that they need to do, understanding the task, what I know about the task, what do I understand about the task, and then also our connections. So have I come across this task before, for example? Are there any links between the topics? Because it might be that they are writing a piece of writing, for example, it's any piece of writing and it's on a specific topic. So it's thinking about, have I seen something similar in a different context? Then also looking at the strategy. So what is the best approach to complete this task? How am I going to go about completing the task? And then finally, reflection. So how successful was I completing this task? Have I done enough? Have I answered all of the bullet points that I need to do? Have I included all of the grammatical aspects that the task is requiring? So we really want our students to ask themselves the questions, you know, for example, what is the task about? Have I done this task before? How did it go last time? Are there any structures that I have been taught previously that might help me to complete this task? Any vocabulary, any, I don't know, tenses, for example? Are there also any errors, you know, that I might make, whether it is grammatical errors, whether it is spelling? How does this task make me feel? So it's really students thinking and planning how they go about the task. So what I will focus in this session is at 2 high impact teacher-led strategies, one being live modeling, specifically looking at extended piece of writing, but I have also included one where is tackling a reading task in a target language. So for you, it would be English. For me, obviously, it's a German. And then looking also at ritual practice in a context of homework using Quizlet and carousel learning. I'm pretty sure some of the websites you might be familiar with, some of you maybe not as much, but I will try to explain and show as much as I can within the time limit. And then one high impact student-led strategy, which is focusing on revision cards, using either physical revision cards and the Lightner system, or using digital cards using the Anki Net app, and looking at revision maps. Now, these strategies has been really classed by my own students as the most effective and most helpful in order to help them to obviously develop independence. Now, from my context, obviously teaching younger learners, what I'm sharing is really experience from my own classroom. So obviously every school has got different context. You have different profile of students. Some of them might be older, you're teaching adults, for example, or postgraduates. Some of them might be younger children. From my personal experience with the age group that I teach, I have found that most of my learners really need to be taught metacognitive strategies and regulation explicitly. I have some students who are more mature or higher attaining students who have developed their independence quite implicitly. You know, they found the ways how to go about a task. They're quite good with self-regulations. They have found ways how to do revision, which is effective and obviously helps them to retain the information. But most of my students who are younger really need to be shown how to complete the task, how to go about it, because it's not just a straightforward let's do it, if obviously they don't have the language ability just yet. So we want our students to learn more for longer, to retain and to make sure that they embed their knowledge in long-term memory. So if you look specifically now at life modeling, now I have, when I started teaching really, I often spend a long time in my lesson sequences teaching students bits and chunks, and we've done vocabulary, we have done grammar, we looked at how the language works together in connection, and then we would come to the production phase and I would say to the student, okay, we've done all of this, we need to now, we're going to be looking at writing, I don't know, blog or maybe an email. You have all of the tools. We have done it over the, I don't know, amount of time, 6, 7 lessons. Now I would like you to complete the task. And the problem I was encountering is that even though I taught all of this, when it came to the production phase, students were still puzzled. They did not know how to go about a task. They did not know how to plan the task, how to execute the task. So I started to use live modeling using Visualizer, which I will show you later on what Visualizer, which is basically a camera which you attach to your laptop, which then allows you to live model on the actual paper, on your template, on your in your exercise book, where you physically complete the task while it's projected on an interactive whiteboard, so students can follow. You're doing it exactly in the book, so they exactly know your thought process. So it's almost like you are thinking aloud. What are you doing? And explaining students why are you doing it, okay? But you don't have to use a visualizer. I'm pretty sure Joe will tell you that you can use a second device to do that as well. So it can be quite cost effective in the sense that you don't have to buy a visualizer. It's basically a camera, and I will show you two which I have used in the past. So it's modeling the process, how to approach the task. So dissect the task, highlight the previous links, the topics, the vocabulary, the structures, annotating the task. It's really important for the students to really understand the process, you know, how I'm going, it's demonstrating the process and really showing them the modeling of the metacognitive regulation, what it is they need to do before they even tackle the task. So the planning stage, during the task, so the monitoring, and then after the task, evaluating the task. So this is extremely important and extremely useful for my students in the sense that when I now do a piece of writing with different topic, different year group, for example, they can go on with it. They know, because they've been shown a number of times, they know what is expected. They know how to go about the task. So when I talk about visualizers, these are the two visualizers that I have used in the past. One is the Hue camera, which I think if you were to buy it, I think it's Amazon around £40. Is not as brilliant as the iPivo, which is a little bit more expensive. But as I said, you don't have to use a visualizer, but I wasn't sure whether people know what a visualizer is, because obviously we're coming from all different backgrounds. I just wanted to make sure that you know what I mean with the term. So if I look at the live modeling, and what I have done is I have inserted 2 videos, which I will not really play now because they are about 15, one is about 15 minutes modeling a writing task, and one is about 8 minutes modeling a reading task. Because we haven't got the time for it, but when you get the slides, and you will get the slides, you can then watch it. It is recorded in English because all of my thinking process, because of my learners being young and maybe doing language only for 1, 2, or 3 years. If I come to GCSE, it's 5 years. I explain my thought process in their language while I'm completing the task, obviously in a target language. So even though it is a modeling task in German, it is explained in English, so you can follow the process. And if it's something that you think could be useful for your own classroom, you can then obviously try. So what I do here, I explicitly model how to construct the work. So we have, for example, task. So we would go with the students looking at the title, so we know what the topic is. We would look at the background. So am I writing a letter to a friend? Am I writing a blog? Then we would look actually what it is they have to include, what are the bullet points. So in our, for example, tasks, they usually have 4 bullet points they have to answer in their writing. So we would look, first of all, at the task from 2 points of view. One would be the grammatical. So what structures do I need? Do I need past tense? Do I need present tense? Do I need future tense? Do I need to use opinions? So I will be annotating. Okay, at this stage, students are not writing, they are just watching, so they are not allowed to copy while I'm modeling. So eyes are on the board, I am demonstrating under my visualizer so they can see it projected. So we would look first of all at the grammatical point, and then I will be making notes. So I need a past tense, I'll make a little annotation for past tense, I need future, and so on. I also would show them that I personally would give myself an example structure, what it looks like. What does the past tense look like? Because, for example, in German, it does affect the word order. Students need to know where the past participle goes when it's opinions and are justified. Again, there is a specific structure in German that the verb has to go at the end. So giving them an example. So we look at it, first of all, from the grammatical point of view, and then we start looking actually at the what is the content of the bullet point, what it is they are writing about. And then I would be modeling an answer to each bullet point, how to extend it. At this stage, my students are active because I would be taking suggestions from them. So I would get my students to tell me what to write. And if we write a sentence, and for example, the sentence is quite short, it's basic, I would again challenge them. I would probe them with a question saying, okay, how can we make it better? Could we use a better adjective? So it would be me there physically crossing out the word, replacing it, extending it, using a better structure. So I'm using the hive mind of my class to give me suggestions while I'm modeling. Okay, so I will do maybe some deliberate mistakes, and students will have to correct them. So it might be that I don't know, I put a wrong verb ending, or I make a deliberate mistake with a word order. Or for example, in German, nouns have to be written with capital letters. So I write a noun with a small letter. So I would probe my students to be engaged with me during the process and tell me, why is that a mistake? Why it is not right? So it's about verbalizing not just the what, but also the why. Why am I writing this? Why am I answering like this? Showing them how to change a question into an answer, giving them the process to thinking. So when they come to write their own work, they can do it independently because they've been shown how to do that. So I would explain to them when to write a new paragraph, how to write a plan, and how to assess it. So all of these would be modeled live in the class, but students are, as I said, not writing, they're not copying what's on the board, they're literally just watching. Now, with the recordings that I have attached, these are actually just me modeling, no input from students, because the video would be very long if I recorded it. So these are actually me just modeling my thought process, so my thinking aloud, really, what I'm doing. And I use these for when students are absent, for example, because obviously we had the COVID situation, lockdowns, remote learning, remote teaching. So I would be posting it to students as a reminder how to go about a task. But for their assessment, then, for example, they would have a different task. So it's not that they watch and copy. I also sometimes set it as a homework, as a refresher before we do maybe a task, because I don't necessarily do every single time we do a written task live modeling, because I haven't got the time in the lesson. Obviously, I need to make sure that my students are progressing and learning more content, because more vocabulary, it means more independence they have in what they write. So these are, if you would like to have a look at, you can have a look at. But I also do live marking under the visualizer, which I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so I use the visualizer also collecting some pieces of writing and then show students how under the visualizer live, how I mark, why I mark the way I mark, and why it is important. So what we also do is in terms of trying to get our students independent. Just before I move on from the videos, I mean, the videos, I have been really inspired some other colleagues who are really generous with sharing their ideas. And there are quite a few people who used live modeling and recording, such as Sonia Fedrizzi, and I think most recently also Smeralda Salgado did some of them. So that's been inspired by quite a lot of colleagues who are freely sharing their ideas as well. So it's not just me and my ideas. So what you can see now is also we use a work booklet, which would have, first of all, a worked example. Now, the origin of this booklet was created by Benjamin Courier, who is a teacher of Spanish. I think he's head of languages at a school, and he created it first in Spanish. And then with his permission, quite a few of us asked, could we adapt it to our languages? He was generous to say yes. So I have adapted his idea to a German task. So this would be a typical task our students would be doing for this qualification they get at the end of their secondary education. And you've got a picture task there. And what I have done is, I'm not sure how well you can see it, they have to write a description of the picture and they have to write an opinion. So I have broken it down and I have shown them obviously how to answer the question for the description, how to include opinion. And then you've got another types of activities again, which are broken down literally, you know, do they have to write present, do they have to write past, is it an opinion, is it in future? And then in chunks, really modeled an example, a good one. Then the students do deliberate guided practice before they go and tackle a task independently. So all of these things serve as a scaffold, because I don't necessarily like giving students different types of activities in a sense of differentiation. I don't like to put a glass ceiling on my students' abilities. I don't like to talk about, higher, lower, or middle ability, because that's kind of restrictive. I'd rather scaffold the work. So all of my students are accessing the same task, but they might have a different level of scaffold. I might have some learners who don't need any of these because they're quite independent. Their language knowledge, their independence is there because they have got the rich vocabulary. But some of my students might not have that because I teach mixed classes. So I might have a student with a target of, I don't know, grade 3 at the GCSE against somebody who's got grade 9, which is the highest. I'm not sure how familiar you with the educational system, British educational system. So I have to make sure that all of the students are catered for. So that's another example. Now, if I talk about live marking, now this template has been adapted by another teacher who kindly shared on Twitter, Elena Diaz, and she created a template for the younger students when they do writing assessment. So what you can see there, if you see a picture where there is a red marking, that would be me marking on the visualizer, picking up mistakes, and then the green would be the students and afterwards correcting it. So in the first one, you can see that there are some mistakes with spelling, so capital letters in German. So the students afterwards corrected it. So what I do when I do live marking is I would collect maybe 5 or 6 pieces of writing. I might have a class of 25, 30. So I would collect 5 or 6 pieces of writing and I would mark them live under the visualizer while students are then marking along. Now, not everybody will have exactly the same text, but from experience, they are making the same mistakes. So it could be that their mistakes is with spelling. Now, in my subject, it would be writing the capital letters, making mistakes with the EIs and IE sounds, okay, so the vowel combinations. Often they make mistakes with the verb endings. Other mistakes which are very common is the word order. So they can follow and they can mark, and you can see that the students are marking along where any mistakes were in the green. But I also get them that after, obviously they have annotated, you can see a little bit there that they put what tenses they need. They drew a little burger because that's what we use when you teach past tense in German to remember the word order. So that's a visual aid for them. And then when they finish, they also reflect. So they look at what have I included? Have I included connectives? Have I included tenses? Have I included adjectives? And then they highlight it. So they're reflecting and they also checking. Have I checked? Have I included everything that I need to do? So it's the reflection after the completion of the task, again, modeling the metacognitive strategies, the self-regulation, and that they understand what success looks like. So that's another one. But as I said, the template was generously shared by another colleague, and I have just, with her permission again, adapted it to use it for my classes. Now, when we come to ritual practice, it's integral part of my lessons. I use ritual practice all the time because I want my students to make sure that they can retain the knowledge, that they can embed it in their long-term memory, because obviously the limited capacity of the working memory and the way the timetable works in the UK, we don't have a lot of language lessons. We might have 2 lessons a week, and there might be gaps between. So I need to make sure that my students also work at home and can retain the knowledge and can retain the vocabulary. So I often use Quizlet, which is, I think there is a free account. You can have up to 8 classes. You can create as many sets as you want. You can just share the link with your students. You can also, I think there is you can put on your dashboard a copy of sets already shared publicly. So what students can do, they can practice using cards. You can choose whether you want them to practice in language 1 or language 2 or a mixture. They can use various modes, so they can learn, write, spell. There are various games here at the bottom. But then once they have practiced, what I ask my students to do is to take a test, so take a quiz. And I set them a benchmark. I say that I don't want anything less than, let's say, 70% or 80%, depending on my class and how far we are in a sequence. And then they have to upload me a screenshot of completion of the task. What's brilliant about it is it's self-marking. So again, it reduces our workload because we are busy with so many things. So it's good for the teacher and teacher's workload as well, because it's self-marking and I can see how well students do. So they would send me, as I said, upload me an image. We use a system in my school called Show My Homework. They would just upload it in there with the benchmark very clearly. So that's one. Another one that I used and started to use recently, which is fairly new, I think it's been created last year, it's carousel learning. Now, I have not time to show you how to set it up, but again, there is a free account, which is limited, but you can try it and see whether it's something you like. I think it allows you to create possibly 4 or 5 classes. You can create as many word banks and question banks as you want, but it only allows you, I think, to download about 4 from the global, so somebody shared by other colleagues, because there will be already lots of question banks created by other teachers, but it, I think, allows you only to download 4, and it doesn't give you the thorough feedback. The next one, I think, is gold, and it is about £60 a year, which allows you then all of the analysis and feedback. And then there is also one which is for the school, which is platinum, and I think it's about £150 a year. And that could be used for entire school, and not just for languages. It can be used for any subject. My school personally subscribes to it, so we use it all in our school, every subject. And I have given you a link to a video. Another colleague who will be presenting, I think, here as well later on, Jane Bassnett, has kindly created, which will walk you through how to set up, you know, your own account and how to set up your own classes. So you can watch that. It's really, really useful. And again, it's good for activating the prior knowledge and ties up with Rosenstein principles of instructions and embedding your knowledge or the student's knowledge into long-term memory. And it's really good for the metacognitive regulation, you know, for the feedback-driven metacognition. So this is what it looks like. I'm just giving you a couple of screenshots so you have a bit of an idea. So what you can see here is my question banks that I have created. They work on a spreadsheet. So if you have a spreadsheet with some vocabulary and structures, you can just copy and paste. These are my classes that are created. Have a nice set homework. So I give them homework. Again, I set always a benchmark because I don't want students just send me anything. And then it gives me really thorough analysis, but this is the one where you have to pay for, okay, to get the analysis. But it tells me exactly what questions my students could answer, which ones they struggled with. It gives me also the percentage breakdown. So that might be really good to analyze you know, they are learning a little bit more in detail. Now, student-led strategy, which I use very often, is obviously flashcards, which you probably will know. I have got quite a few students who prefer to have actual physical flashcards, so I have created this infographic, how to use the likeness system. It's in English, so it's quite easy to follow, just to explain that they make sure that they use their flashcards effectively, because again, it's something some students really have to be taught how to use flashcards to make sure that they actually retain the knowledge and that they space them out, that they interleave them. Now, the carousel learning I have just showing you before is really good for the interleaving. It will interleave the topics for you as well, so you can choose which topics, you can choose the questions you want them to test, or you can just choose randomly. So students using physical flashcards, I explained the lightning system to them. They often like also to use revision maps or revision clocks. How they work, obviously in the middle you put the topic, and where you got the different sections. I get also students to often brainstorm. Can you brainstorm vocabulary to go with the topic? I might ask them to brainstorm adjectives, nouns, verbs, connectives. I might ask them to brainstorm structures in different tenses, to brainstorm style, opinion phrases, justifications. It might be that I ask them, can you use comparatives or superlatives? So it's really just to see, and this would be really from memory. It will not be using any notes. So that's how they would see, okay, what can I do? How much can I write about it? So when it comes to an independent task, whether it is for speaking or whether it is for writing, students can then, have a bank of vocabulary and structures that they can use then. So that's really quite handy as well. And we are nearing, I'm looking at the time, I think I'm nearing to the end. This is the application that is very useful for digital flashcards. An app which I have known previously, but I haven't really explored that much until I have watched a webinar by Richard Vesoli, which he has done recently for Linguascope. And he really gone into detail how to use the Anki Net app. Now, this app is absolutely free, and the web version works also on the phone browser. So I put some links in there. I have asked for his permission to share his obviously ideas with you today, and he was very pleased to do for me to do that. It does use algorithm that will great for spaced practice. Little bit of caveat, which I would say is it's really, in my personal opinion, it's more suitable for all older learners or mature learners. So I would say, maybe AS level, A level, I'm not sure what the equivalent is, obviously, in Indonesia of it, but we're talking about students maybe aged 16 onwards. It could be good for some of the high attaining students also if they are younger, because what students have to do, they have to judge their learning when they practice. They have to decide how confident they are with the answer, because based on that, the application will then space the cards. So if they say this was easy, the card will not appear that soon. It will be pushed to the back. If they say it was difficult, the card will appear more often. So they practice it more often. You can mix individual words and full phrases in a context. You can use it with students, because whatever text you create, again, you can share and you can export and you can share with your class. There are also public decks available, so you can obviously. And for language learning specifically, what's fantastic is the add-ons. You can use the Anki add-ons, and you can use the Forvo add-on, which is a plugin, and it's crowdsourced from native speakers, so you can have the pronunciation incorporated as well. Or you can use the Awesome TTS, which is a computerized voice. So again, it will pronounce the words for the students, so if they're not sure. And it also, you can also encode images with the image occlusion. So if I show you what it would look like, just a screenshot from one of mine. So this is obviously in German. You can see that you got there was the word, then you got the pronunciation, you got a even picture. And this is what I was talking about, making the judgment, how easy it was, because students had to click on it. And that's how the algorithm on the spacing works. And then again, and gives the students progress as well, so they can see how well they are doing. Now, I think this is possibly all from me, and I'm happy for any questions. I know I probably quite whizzed through it, judging the time, but I hope it wasn't information overload.
No problem at all, Silvia. That was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. You've given us a really comprehensive overview of some really practical metacognitive strategies and how to apply them in the languages classroom. And I really love the way in which you gave a range of examples in German, but said how they could be applied in the English language classroom. That's absolutely perfect. We've had lots of questions.
Okay.
So
I hope I can answer them.
Yeah, no, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. We'll do a couple of questions for you personally, and then we'll open it up to the other to Toar as well with the other questions. But there's a really good question here from Azran. Azran's been amazing with asking lots of questions. But she said, how do you measure learners' metacognition online, since it's an issue during the pandemic? What were you doing when, for example, when we were in lockdown, the first lockdown, in relation to measuring the learners' metacognition when we're doing remote lessons? What would you answer to that, Silvia?
So what I was doing, we were still using, for example, because of the nature of remote learning, a lot of it was written work, because obviously the spoken work is quite difficult to judge, because you might not have everybody joining online, because we had some issues. Some students didn't have access to internet, and we also done a lot of pre-recorded lessons, because students then watch them in their own time, because if there were siblings in the family, they might have had one laptop, they could not be on the same time. But we would be still judging it on the written assessments, for example, because you would see they would still have the cognitive process of it, the annotating the task, the responding, the reflection. I might have asked them, can you then on your writing highlight specific structures? So they're still going and checking. Okay, because what I ask also students, once they complete a task, I want them to then take another pen, and when you're doing and checking for your errors, can you just circle them in a different color? So it's teaching the metacognitive strategy of checking, because that's from my experience, one of the things my students often don't do. They complete the task and it's done, and they forget. It's the very self-regulated students who will go and check the work, but many of them would say, I'm done. Have you checked it? Oh, no. Okay, so go and check, and please use a different pen so you can spot your mistakes, because it's a practice. Okay, unless we obviously do an official exam, it's a practice. So everything is practice. So that's how I would do it, okay, in the remote classroom.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. And it was really interesting the way in which you talked about the two visualizers that you would recommend, the iPivo one and the Hue one. And you were saying about using, say, a second device if you were in, say, a Zoom call. That was something which I certainly tweeted about at the beginning, when I think lots of people didn't realise they could use just a phone or an iPad to have a second device. So for those people listening who haven't tried that, all you have to do is join the session, be it on Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Google Meet, with a second device. You just have to make sure that you've muted the audio, otherwise you're going to have an echo. And then you simply point the camera downwards. You maybe put it on a set of books, or however you want to position it, or if you're lucky, a tripod. And then you can then model the language, be it on a piece of paper or a mini whiteboard, and you can do these sorts of metacognitive strategies in the way that Silvia's talked about. So that was fantastic, brilliant. We've got time, I think, if we do one more question, and then we'll open it up. So let's have a quick look. We had lots of really good questions. Let's have the next one. Right. How do you encourage young learners to be independent learners to learn their target language, in this case English, when they don't have any motivation to learn? This is from Martini, saying, I'm a teacher of English in a public school where my students come from families with low economic backgrounds. What would you recommend about engaging students and promoting motivation using metacognitive strategies, Silvia?
I personally, I have a lot of students who don't see value in languages. They think I will never use it. So what is the point of doing it? I think the greatest thing for motivation is really giving students the feeling of success, that they can be successful with what they're doing. And that's really looking at the methodology you use to deliver the language. The problem in the UK we have a limited amount of time to teach language. It's a lot of content. So I would say really narrowing your content, looking at what it is the core you want your students to know, what is the absolutely essential you want them to do, and then practice it in really engaging activities. I mean, I don't know whether I can say it here, but we personally use a methodology which is called EPI, which is been developed by Gianfranco Conti, and it's really extensive processing instructions, and it's a lot about learning language through listening and reading. It's really learning language for communication purposes, and we do a lot of engaging activities. I use a lot of mini whiteboards, which are, I don't know whether you know what they are, plastic whiteboards where students write answers, I dictate, we do translation, and they love it because they're not worried about making mistakes. They can see the success really instantly, and it's just built the self-efficacy. And I think when they see that, yes, I can do it, it's because languages are difficult, aren't they? They're not easy. If they can experience the success, I think that's one of the greatest motivators. So I don't teach personally grammar explicitly. it will be a pop-up. So they learn structures, and then we will go into explain why it is there. Because I think often my students would say that language can be boring if you go really didactic. Not everybody is a didactic learner. I personally am very academic, so I like learning, academic way. I like learning my endings and tables, but that's not everybody's cup of tea. Not every child will go with it. So it's really trialing. But I think if they can experience success, that they can do it, that will motivate them.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to listen to you sharing all your ideas and practical suggestions. That's wonderful. So I'd like to now open it back up with Bhagjati and with Toar, and we'll do a few more questions to finish off the session. It's been wonderful, as always. Brilliant. Bhagjati, do you want to say a few words?
Yeah, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. Both give us a lot of ideas, practical from Pak Toar and some wrap-up theory and also practical tips from Silvia. Pak Toar, there is a common questions because 21st century skill is always associated with internet and technology tools. There is a questions from YouTube actually. The question is from Tri Sukartini. It's a very interesting teaching and learning method, but I have problem that some of my students, they don't have a sophisticated mobile phone, which supports some of the application. Is there any suggestion to use a low bandwidth or some other tools? Pak Toar?
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Bhagjati. Great question from Ibu Tri, right?
Yeah.
It's from YouTube. So for me, if your students do not have the technology, you don't have to force it. But you can just do what you can. Just song from Bon Jovi.
From Bon Jovi, right.
Okay, you use any materials that you can use around that the students have. You can use papers, you can use pencils, you can use anything. I mean, you don't have to force yourself. The 21st century skills, although it is closely related to technology, but for example, like critical thinking, communication, collaboration, they can be done without technology, without digital technology. Just only, for example, just using discussion, just using question and answer. When the teachers know how to do it, I mean, teachers can guide the students to develop these skills.
Okay, thank you. I agree with you. So technology is not a must. Actually, there are a lot of other ways that you can use a lot of tools around when the students live. You can use paper, you can use other things. Yeah, but we have to know what's behind that. Actually, critical thinking and so on. Yeah. There is another question from the YouTube from Silver. How to respond to students who give a suggestion, but they are not suitable or good enough to the writing without making them feel bad. Is there any suggestion, Pak Toar? Anak nakal asking questions not really related to the meme or to the writing. How will you handle that?
Well, depending on the context, actually, this is not like a fixed formula. I mean, from my experience, if it happens in my class, usually I will answer it, put it in a funny way, not to hurt his or her feelings, and then just you will find. I don't know the exact question on in the exact context, so what I can say is just find some way to also develop their learning, not to hurt their feelings, something like that.
Yeah, so it's more encouraging comment.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Pak Toar.
Lovely. And on that point, if it's okay, if I could ask Silvia another question around metacognition, which is similar, which is a nice segue, I think, from what Toar just said, which was from Diane in the session. For metacognition, can teachers provide guiding questions or a checklist after modelling? How do we measure or observe that learners have improved their learning independently? And she says a bit about her context. I'm teaching international A-level English language and working on 21st century skills and metacognition. Thank you. Any thoughts, Silvia, about that?
Yes, certainly. You can provide some questions and checklist. I mean, in one of the templates, there is actually a checklist, checking students that they have gone through the process, included everything in there. So you could definitely ask them. But what I also do with my younger learners, for example, I often find that when we do, for example, reading comprehension, that students answer the questions, but I make them, okay, you answer the question, underline where you have found it. So, but what is your reasoning that that's the right question? So it's not just checking, because sometimes, especially when you have things like multiple choices, it's really kind of like Russian roulette, if they don't know really the answer, it's just. So I always want to make sure that my students know why they go for the answer. Obviously, if they don't and it's an examination, then you have to put something down. But certainly you can provide them with questions. You can have questions, where they support the cognitive, metacognitive thinking. But also, I think you see it in a process in a classroom. When I circulate and I look what students are doing, I can see that they are reflective learners. So I don't want just to see it as a didactic tick list that the kids are doing just mechanically. You as a teacher observe whether your student is improving their metacognition, their thinking, because the way their work changes over time. So I think it is visible as well in that sense, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I was gonna put the same question to Toar as well. Toar, how do you promote reflection amongst your students on different strategies such as metacognition and 21st century skills?
There are different ways that I've tried out. I mean, for example, you could use memes. You can ask. Most of the time is, for example, during this meme activity, when they have to give comments to one another at the end of the meme creation, when they post it on Schoology. And it's actually related to one of the questions asked by, I don't remember. So I also participated on the process. Like maybe this what Silvia said about the live modeling during the teaching. So yeah. when they were silent in the comment section, I will try to prompt questions to invite more discussion, something like that. So we need to be active to promote the metacognition activities among the students, something like that.
Absolutely. So essentially, we need to make the students think. I think that to summarise, we need to make the students think and reflect, and not just be passive, but really think and engage in the learning process. And that is what will really help to embed the knowledge and make it go into their long-term memory. That's my understanding from what you've both said.
That's the key, to make the students think.
Yeah, yeah.
If I may,
Silvia, yeah.
Often you can also have students working in pairs when they're tackling a task. Or sometimes I have students actually coming to the front and modeling their own work, explaining to the class, why have I used here? How do I answer it? Because that's really quite powerful with the students seeing a peer demonstrating how to. So it's not just coming from the teacher, okay, who knows things. It's coming from the peer explaining their work, how they went about it, why they went about it like that. So that's extremely powerful as well.
Absolutely, that's lovely. And we'll just do one more question, if that's okay, which I think is a really, really nice question from Tarun, which is how do you train our students to have metacognitive learning strategies in learning, in this case English, and how to make sure that they really apply this self-learning regulation model? What would your advice be on that? How do you train up the students to be more reflective and use metacognition? So, Silvia, if I come to you first and then pass over to Toar.
To be honest with you, I really start from the very start, from the year 7, so from the 11-year-olds. And I think if you show them and explain to them that you want to have, that you want to understand their thinking behind it, and as I said, you model it, you show it when you give your instruction, I think it becomes a second nature, because we can just send our students go and complete a task, but often, especially with the younger learners, we still like, okay, I really don't know what I'm doing here. How do I go about it? So if you really nurture it from the beginning of your course, and it's something you do yourself as well, and you constantly demand your students that they explain to you why have you used that, or how can you make it better. So we start maybe with a simple sentence. You give me a simple sentence, okay? So because I want a response, I want anything. I want you to give me anything. I just don't want nothing. So give me something. So they come up with a simple sentence, and then you look as well as a class. Okay, well, Could we make it better? How could we make it better? Could we, I don't know, I play football, for example. Could I say I play football with someone? I can say how often I play the football. Can I say where I play the football? So it's looking at how they can make the language better themselves without really just kind of like memorizing, can you then express an opinion about it? So if you push and get them, as I said, as Toar said as well, this thinking, the process behind it, why, then it will be embedded. It's not something you do to your students. It is. Metacognition is what students do themselves. Okay, it's, as I said, range of behaviors. And when you're modeling, it's really showing them behavior you want them to copy of you.
Yeah, amazing. And that's fantastic. Thank you so much. That's brilliant. And then Toar, would you adopt a similar approach? Because your students are a bit older, aren't they? Is that right?
Yeah. Okay. For me, the most important thing first is the students must know what they are going to do and what the teachers are expecting them to gain later. So this is about the learning objectives. And always encourage not individual learning, but peer learning. Like whether they work in pairs or they work in groups, and teachers need to participate in between. And don't give them one big task. Okay, write an essay about this. You need to scaffold the activities, make it into smaller chunks, so students so it's easier for students to work on something like that. That's what I usually do in my class.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Yeah, chunking is so important. Absolutely.
Fantastic. We've had so many questions. Unfortunately, we've run out of time now, really. We've gone over a little bit, but it's been an amazing webinar. It's been fantastic. So apologies, we've not been able to put every question that we've had into the amazing speakers. But that's just life sometimes. But it shows how engaged and how interesting the content has been. The fact we've had lots and lots of questions and comments. It's been wonderful. So without further ado, I'd like to hand back to Pagjati to wrap us up. But thank you so much for everyone coming along. The first webinar of 2022. Again, I'd like to wish everyone a Happy New Year. And I really hope that you found the session useful. As per normal, we'll be uploading the recording onto my YouTube channel. It'll also be available on the if you're watching on YouTube, it'll be available there as well, but it'll be on my YouTube channel. And I've shared the playlist in the chat as well, which is also available on my YouTube channel, which has so far the first 5 sessions, but by the end of the series it'll have all 10 recordings on that playlist, so you'll be able to watch back every single webinar that we've had so far in the series. So it's been wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. So I'd like to pass back to Pagjati to wrap us up.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe. Thank you very much, Silvia. Thank you, Toar. Thank you very much. We're going to have the exit ticket. Don't forget, if you want the certificate, that you have to go to bit.ly/exit-stt6. So you have to fill in the question at first, then by the end of that, you will get the certificate. Click the submit button. Don't forget about that. Some of you also asked when will we meet again? That's going to be on the 22 January. Yeah, with the topic of another topic, designing and planning blended learning environment. I think that's a very useful later on after the pandemic. It's going to be 2 speakers, one from Indonesia, Ibu Neni, and will be with Esmeralda, that's from the UK side. Yeah, so you can register in bit.ly/BC-iTELL-22 January or Jan. Yeah, that's already in the chat box, everyone. Yeah, and also we're going to hold a conference. This is face-to-face conference. If you are in the UK, please come to Yogyakarta. That's a nice city, actually, very historical. If you are in Thailand and you are in Vietnam, come and visit us later in 7 and 8 July. It's going to be face-to-face, and we are planning to have more speakers from the UK. We are still working on that. So far, we have plenary speakers 4, and then 3 featured speaker and somebody from UK. We still work on that, and we will put the announcement soon. If you got ideas about the use of technology and language learning, Yeah, abstract submission still open until 14th of February. Yeah. Again, everyone, thank you very much. Don't forget to fill in the exit ticket, and then take note of this online conference. If you got the ideas, share with us. Thank you and have a nice weekend. We'll see you again on 22nd of January. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.